You ever look back on someone you swore you loved and suddenly wonder, wait a minute, did I actually love them? Or was I just terrified of being alone? Because here's the truth no one likes to admit. Loneliness wears a really good disguise, and sometimes it looks exactly like love. Today, we're diving deep into a painful question many people ask themselves after a breakup or a wake-up call. Was it love, or was I just lonely? It's not just a romantic question, it's an emotional reckoning. Because the scariest kind of heartbreak is realizing you weren't in love with them. You were just afraid of the silence when they left. So buckle in, because we're going to break this down into 5 brutally honest truths that might just make you rethink everything about your last relationship. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell, because around here we talk about the things most people are too scared to say out loud. Truth number 1, loneliness makes you settle for half love. Let's be honest. When you're lonely, your standards start to erode like cliffs under a storm. You're not looking for a soulmate. You're looking for someone who answers the phone, someone who replies to your texts, someone who's there when everyone else disappears. And because they showed up, you convince yourself, this must be love. But love isn't just someone being there. Love is someone showing up for you, emotionally, mentally, consistently. Yet loneliness will trick you into thinking that a breadcrumb is a buffet. You'll take the bare minimum and decorate it in your head until it feels like a fairy tale. He said goodnight every day. She must care. She remembered your birthday. That's proof. It's love. But here's the kicker. They might have just been kind, or bored, or lonely too. And if you're not careful, you'll wrap your whole heart around someone who never really asked for it. Because loneliness isn't just about wanting someone. It's about wanting anyone who makes you feel less invisible. And that's not love. That's survival. Truth number 2, you confused attention for intimacy. Let's talk about one of loneliness' cruelest tricks. It confuses attention with intimacy, and they are not the same thing. He texted you every morning, right? She liked all your Instagram stories. They FaceTimed you late at night, sent thinking of you messages, maybe even shared playlists. It felt like closeness. But here's the catch. Attention is easy. Intimacy is rare. Anyone can give you attention. Your crush, your situationship, your sneaky link. Even a complete stranger on the internet. But intimacy, that takes vulnerability. That takes showing up in your worst moments. That takes saying, I see you, I hear you, and I'm not going anywhere. Loneliness makes us hungry, not just for love, but for anything that feels like connection. So when someone finally gives us a little spotlight, we bathe in it like it's the sun. You start to mistake their good morning for depth, their flirty compliments for emotional safety, their touch for trust. But if you peel back the layers, you might realize something painful. They never really knew you. Not your fears, not your dreams, not your childhood scars, not the version of you that cries in the shower or overthinks every little silence. And if they didn't know that version of you, who did they love? The truth is, maybe they didn't love you at all. Maybe they just liked the version of you that needed them. Or worse, maybe you didn't love them either. Maybe you just loved that they noticed you when no one else did. When you're lonely, even the wrong person feels like a warm blanket. And that's the danger, because you'll start to think, if they're paying this much attention, this must be something real. But deep down, your heart knows. Attention isn't the same as presence. Flirting isn't the same as loyalty. And loneliness isn't the same as love. Truth number 3, you fell for the feeling, not the person. Here's where it gets even more raw. Sometimes we don't fall in love with the person. We fall in love with the feeling they gave us. That rush, that dopamine hit, that sense of finally being seen, noticed, wanted. They laughed at your jokes, texted you back fast, complimented you when you needed it the most. And in that moment, it felt like magic. It filled a void you didn't even know you had. It soothed an ache that had been living in your chest for months, or maybe even years. But here's the question. Was it them you craved, or the way they made you feel about yourself? Because love, real love, means seeing someone clearly, their flaws, their baggage, their chaos, and still choosing them. But when you're lonely, you don't always see the person. You see a mirror, reflecting what you want to feel, worthy, desired, special. That's why it hurts so much when they pull away. Because it's not just them you're losing. It's that feeling you were addicted to. And suddenly you're not just heartbroken. You're empty because you weren't in love with them. You were in love with the way they temporarily made your loneliness disappear. It's a harsh truth, I know. But when we confuse comfort with connection, we fall hard. Not for the person, but for the relief. And that's the danger. Because comfort doesn't mean compatibility, and relief doesn't mean love. It means you were in pain, and someone for a while made it bearable. But love stays, love grows. Love isn't just about how someone makes you feel. It's about who they are when the feelings fade. Truth number 4. You were in love with the fantasy, not the reality. Here's where things get even more uncomfortable. Sometimes what we fall in love with was never even real. It wasn't the person. It wasn't the relationship. It was the fantasy we built around them. We saw potential. We saw what could be, not what was. We imagined the version of them who might love us better. Later, we clung to their sweet side, their good days, their occasional attention. And every time they disappointed us, we made excuses. He's just busy. She's been hurt before. They'll change once they see how much I care. But love isn't supposed to be a project. You can't date someone's potential. You can't fix someone into becoming the fantasy you wrote in your head. But loneliness? Loneliness will make you write entire novels based on one page of kindness. You'll build castles out of casual texts. You'll imagine a future from a few sleepy phone calls. You'll fall in love with the hope of who they could become, while ignoring the reality of who they are right now. And maybe you knew deep down that it wasn't right, that they weren't really showing up, that they couldn't or wouldn't love you the way you needed. But letting go of the fantasy? That's terrifying, because then you're not just losing a person. You're losing the future you pictured, the someday that kept you hanging on. But here's the raw truth. Love isn't built on maybe. It's built on now, on consistency, on real effort, real presence, real connection. If you had to constantly rewrite the story to make it feel good, it wasn't love, it was fiction. And no matter how good the fantasy felt, you deserve something real. Truth number 5, you stayed because emptiness felt scarier than letting go. And now we reach the hardest truth of all. Sometimes we don't stay because of love. We stay because being alone feels unbearable. You knew the relationship wasn't right. You felt the disconnect, the imbalance, the emotional distance, but you clung to it anyway. Because the silence after a breakup is louder than most people can stand. Because sitting alone with your thoughts feels like drowning in still water. Because sleeping in an empty bed feels like a punishment. Because walking away meant facing the one person you've been running from. Yourself. And when you're that lonely, you start to believe that any connection is better than no connection. You settle. You rationalize. You convince yourself that maybe you're being too sensitive, too needy, too demanding. But here's the truth you need to hear. Being alone is hard, but staying with someone who makes you feel alone, that's soul-crushing. You stayed because the emptiness scared you, because no one taught you that loneliness can be a bridge, not a prison, a bridge to rediscovering yourself, to healing, to choosing better. Letting go doesn't mean you failed. It means you finally realized your worth. It means you've stopped confusing a placeholder for a partner. And that's where real love begins. Not with someone else, but with the moment you decide you'd rather be alone than feel unseen with someone else. So was it love, or just loneliness in disguise? Only you can answer that. But if any part of this video made you feel exposed, understood, or a little less alone, then maybe you've already taken the first step towards something real. Love shouldn't leave you questioning your value. It shouldn't require begging for attention. And it should never feel like you're the only one showing up. You deserve more than half love, more than fantasy, more than comfort wrapped in chaos. You deserve real. If this hit home for you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with someone who might need it, because sometimes the truth hurts. But healing starts with honesty.